not for the lieutenant.
Where will we find this lieutenant?
Huh, lieutenant. Okay, so I've slept on this whole Warhammer universe, and I know I'm not the only one. There's actually a Games Workshop location, a vendor of Warhammer products, very close to my house, and has been there for probably 2 decades now. I walked in there one time thinking it was like a video game or a card store, and there were these strange figures that you had to paint, and I left confused and never looked back. Also, the person working the counter was very annoyed that I didn't just get it walking in, so that solidified me never going back. The first Space Marine game, part of the Warhammer 40k universe, really didn't light the world on fire when it released in 2011 on consoles that are officially classified as retro. Do you feel old yet? Also, 2011 was a very crowded year for game releases. Some of the greatest games of that generation, or even of all time, released that year. There was a lot of competition. Outside of the Warhammer community, many reviewers didn't think this game was anything too special, and a game feeling very of its time. However, fast forward 14 years, Space Marine 2 kind of hit hard onto the scene, being very reminiscent of games they really don't make anymore. And the field for a game like this, let's say, is significantly less competitive. So it popped off onto my list. I noticed the conversation was really about the sequel and not as much the first game. So when the Mastercrafted edition released onto Game Pass, I was really excited. And for the most part, I wasn't disappointed. As said above, I do think these games, feeling very much like something from the 360 PS3 era, really do these games favors in the modern day. Back then, a lot of games released of a 6 to 14-ish hour single player, maybe a multiplayer or a co-op mode, but a single player was deemed necessary. Online play or even decent internet speeds weren't a given. So some offline play, especially for a console experience, was standard. I am coming at these games knowing nothing of Warhammer or anything else, which I do feel like is most people. I honestly slept on this game when it came out because I thought it would be like a strategy game or an RTS with like 3 factions, rock, paper, scissors style tactics that I'm just not into. While there is a lot of lore already in the Warhammer 40k universe, none of that is necessary for experiencing these games. However, it will certainly enrich the experience. The game opens with this text communication of your deployment and then you're off. Something I really love about this game is the setting and art style. It's a mix of sci-fi and fantasy that you really don't see that much or at all. It's very unique to this world. If the art styles of StarCraft and Warcraft had a baby with the controls of Gears of War, it would be Space Marine. Space orcs are just not something you see every day. There's even some Diablo-looking enemies near the end. If you go into the shared histories of Blizzard and Warhammer / Games Workshop, you see this moment where Blizzard wanted to make games about the Warhammer universe, but Warhammer said no. And then you saw the Warcraft and StarCraft games from them, games that look eerily similar to the art style of the company that chose not to work with them. I found this piece of real-world lore very interesting. The gameplay is very reminiscent of that Gears of War third-person, over-the-shoulder style, minus the cover mechanics. However, its edge is that it really leans into melee combat. You could play most of this game as a melee game if you really wanted to, or you could use it very little. After a while, the game really opens up your options, leaving little ammo caches of these different guns for things for you to play around with for your preferred play experience. I prefer this selection of guns, your standard pistol, your bolter with this laser cannon, and the multi-gun. I feel like these covered all bases pretty well, and with this axe. A notable exception would be, dare I say, a Warhammer with a jetpack, something you get at a certain point in the game with this satisfying as ever ground pound. I really didn't like the hammer without the jetpack as it limits your weapon selection, and I don't know, there's something so satisfying about the laser sniper, and even the bolter sniper in this game was more of my preferred play style. That ground pound is a good time to talk about how this game feels, the weight of this game. It's bulky, and that's a good thing. You feel this game, you feel the weight of your character as you walk, as you sling your weapon, as you use these big guns. It's something this game really got right. Something that really makes this game stand out is its approach to health regeneration, which was really ahead of its time. It rocks this Halo 1 style health with a regenerating shield, and once that depletes, you take damage. But the twist is that you have to do these executions melee style to regenerate health. Something that would be more popular with the Doom games later on, but be careful while you're doing this, as you can still take damage while in these animations, which can lead to these cool cool moments of balancing time and health while trying to regenerate it. But going back to the lore, it does entice you to want to know more. As I'm shooting these World of Warcraft and Diablo-ass enemies, I want to know more about these worlds, these people, this conflict, this setting, these factions, this arm. It really primes you to get excited about the universe. And just a quick run through of the settings. Set in the Warhammer 40k universe, the game follows Captain Titus of the Ultramarines. Titus and his squad are dispatched to this planet under siege by an orc invasion. Their mission is to protect the planet's critical war assets, specifically this Warlord class Titan. As the battle rages, another threat emerges, and it kind of throws the whole story on its head. Chaos ensues, it's fun, it's a good time. Your character is constantly able to be around this chaos energy, which is something that the good guys get really sussy about, but you press on. However, if I'm being honest, towards the end of the game I was starting to check out. This game does get repetitive wave after wave, especially when you figure out how to handle these waves. But when I finally started feeling this way, the game ended, so it didn't overstay its welcome. And the final boss was a little meh. It had this final boss of Halo 4 energy, quick time event. Honestly, this orc captain would have been a much better final boss. I liked his fight. The saving grace of the ending is the final cutscene. This weenie, the whole game, who Titus tells to honor the Marine Code, which is a guiding force for these guys against these crazy odds, but also to follow your own intuition. Something Titus does, and this guy struggles with. He turns on you because of your resistance to that chaos energy or whatever, and it's in the code that you're a bad dude if you accept it or can resist against it, and it ends with essentially you getting arrested, with the newbie you've been kind of coaching most of this game being the one to turn you in. Bruh. And people who like this game had to wait 14 years for a continuation of this cliffhanger ending. But yeah, the game has these moments where the code comes up and Titus, the more experienced Marine, kind of hints that your intuition should override the code, and this bozo absolutely fails the test. The foreshadowing of this is even in the first mission. All in all, I liked Space Marine. It didn't overstay its welcome. You can knock it out in a day or two. It's a perfect weekend game, and it's a great advertisement for the product of the Warhammer universe. I give it, and I liked it on the 5 feeling scale. If you have Game Pass, it's an easy download, and I do think it's worth the $40 asking price, especially considering what publishers are going to be asking $84 very soon. Oof.